Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram,
Okay, Prabhu, streaming live to YouTube.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me see. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Okay, Prabhu joined. Hare Krishna, Mukunda Datta Prabhu. Hare Krishna Prabhu. Mukunda Datta Prabhu. Hare Krishna Prabhu. Please accept my respectful obeisances. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Just give it quick introduction.
Okay.
Quick introduction. Get started. I think many devotees may not know. Mukunda Datta Prabhu has helped in translating Tattva Sandarbha Lagu Bhagavatamrita. So BBT has published an article some time ago. I mentioned, so it is mentioned about Prabhu's growing up in Southern California. He was spiritually inclined from very early age. Prabhu has joined in 1976 at the age of 15. After traveling with Radha Damodar Sankirtan party, serving as Pujari, Gurukula teacher, Mukunda Datta, who married and returned to college in 1990 to get a dependable source of income. Then Gopi Parandan Prabhu has invited him to join BBT in 2001. Switching tracks was an easy decision, so he couldn't imagine any more important work. So Prabhu has joined BBT at the time. Mukunda Datta Prabhu said, life there was very rustic, difficult and austere, but it was extremely rewarding in this sense that I learned so much. The depth of the knowledge and the focus on our traditional literature that he brought was something I couldn't get in a university setting. That is still Prabhupada. And Mukunda Datta Prabhu began by helping Gopi Parandan Prabhu with his work on Jiva Goswami's Bhagavat Sandarbha and Rupa Goswami Lagu Bhagavatamrita. After he took care for his ailing mother, he returned to the BBT in 2011. By this time, Gopi Parandan Prabhu was very dear to him and passed away. So later on, BBT had published this. So thank you very much, Prabhu, for giving your valuable time. Please start. Not able to hear, Prabhu. You're on mute. Okay. Still no voice, Prabhu. Some noise is coming, but no voice. Mukunda Datta Prabhu will join. I think he has computer issue or something. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Yeah, Prabhu, Mukunda Datta Prabhu. I think you joined by phone maybe now. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Mukunda Datta Prabhu, are you able to hear us? I see him online. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Mukunda Datta Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Hare Hare. Mukunda Datta Prabhu.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you see me?
No.
Okay. Start video. How about now?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, so we'll start because we're losing time here.
Yep.
We will discuss tonight Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela, chapter 7, and we'll begin with text number 70. This is, of course, famous chapter, Lord Chaitanya in 5 features. He's speaking to the sannyasis, Mayavadi sannyasis in Kashi. And we'll first of all say Mangalacharana. Nama Om Vishnu Paraya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschati Deshatharane Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Mahaprabhu Shri Krishna Chaitanya Tahara Charana Shrita Shai Baradhanya Mad Kavirapi Gopala Sri Puryat Kripaya Yadi Tadaiva Sampaya Pitva Shri Yustatriyajanaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So he says, Prakashananda Saraswati told Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Prabhave dekhiye toma sakshat Narayan, hinachar korke kene itheki karan. You look as brilliant as if you were Narayan himself. Will you kindly explain the reason that you have adopted the behavior of lower class people? Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Due to renunciation, Vedanta study, meditation, and the strict regular principles of their daily routine, Mayavadi sannyasis are certainly in a position to execute pious activities. Thus, Prakashananda Saraswati, on account of his piety, could understand that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was not an ordinary person, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sakshat Narayana. He considered him to be Narayan himself. Mayavadi sannyasis address one another as Narayan because they think that they are all going to be Narayan or merge with Narayan in the next life. Prakashananda Saraswati appreciated that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had already directly become Narayan and he did not need to wait until his next life. One difference between the Vaishnava and Mayavadi philosophies is that Mayavadi philosophers think that after giving up their bodies, they're going to become Narayan by merging with his body. Whereas Vaishnava philosophers understand that after the body dies, they're going to have a transcendental spiritual body in which to associate with Narayana. Here, Srila Prabhupada has pointed out the importance of pious activities. By pious activities, we may be able to recognize who is a Vaishnava. Of course, we don't believe that everyone is going to become Narayan. So there's no question of recognizing someone as Narayan. But we can recognize Krishna as the Supreme Lord. And more importantly, for our own advancement, we can recognize who is a devotee. So this suggests the importance of ordinary piety, not even great spiritual piety, but ordinary piety. Without pious credits, one is unlikely to succeed in bhakti. And therefore, Krishna says in 11th canto, chapter 20, text number 9, Tavat karmani kurvita na nirvedyeta yavata mat katha shravanadauva shraddha yavan najayate. As long as one is not satiated by fruitive activity and has not awakened his taste for devotional service by Shravan Kirtanam, etc., one has to act according to the regulative principles of the Vedic injunctions. That's a very important point. Okay, we'll go on to the next verse. Prabhu kahe shuno shripadi har karon guru more murkha dekhi karila shasan. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied to Prakashananda Saraswati, my dear sir, kindly hear the reason. My spiritual master considered me a fool. Therefore, he chastised me. Purport, when Prakashananda Saraswati inquired from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu why he neither studied Vedanta nor performed meditation, Lord Chaitanya presented himself as a number one fool in order to indicate that in the present age, Kali Yuga, is an age of fools and rascals, in which it is not possible to obtain perfection simply by reading Vedanta philosophy and meditating. The Shastras strongly recommend Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama Eva Kevalam Bhagau Nastyeva, Nastyeva, Nastyeva Gatiranyatha. In this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, the only means of deliverance is the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. There is no other way. There is no other way. There is no other way. End quote. People in general in Kali Yuga are so fallen that it is not possible for them to obtain perfection simply by studying the Vedanta Sutra. One should therefore seriously take to the constant chanting of the holy name of the Lord. Very sound advice here. Murkha tumi tomar nahi ko Vedanta dhikar Krishna mantra japa sadar ei mantra shar. Text 72. You are a fool, he said. You're not qualified to study Vedanta philosophy, and therefore you must always chant the holy name of Krishna. This is the essence of all mantras or Vedic hymns. Purport, Sri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj comments in this connection. One can become perfectly successful in the mission of his life if he acts exactly according to the words he hears from the mouth of his spiritual master. This acceptance of the words of the spiritual master is called Shrautavakya, which indicates that the disciple must carry out the spiritual master's instructions without deviation. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarks in this connection that a disciple must accept the words of his spiritual master as his life and soul. Now here I would like to interject, for those who are interested in this subject, that most important principle, you can refer to a potentially life-changing lecture given by the late Tamal Krishna Goswami on June 16th, 1996 in Paris, France. And that lecture is available for free download from tkgtm.com. They have an audio section there. I was fortunate enough to be in that lecture, and it was very powerful, at least in person. But even listening to the recording also, I've kept it very carefully and from time to time listen to it again and again. It is spoken by a most qualified personality who has deep realization of this topic, faith in the words of the spiritual master. So I'm not going to dilate any further on that right now, but if you're interested, you can please follow that advice. To continue Srila Prabhupada's purport, he writes, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu here confirms this by saying that since his spiritual master ordered him only to chant the holy name of Krishna, he always chanted the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra according to this direction. Krishna is the origin of everything. Therefore, when a person is fully Krishna conscious, it is to be understood that his relationship with Krishna has been fully confirmed. Lacking Krishna consciousness, one is only partially related with Krishna and is therefore not in his constitutional position. Although Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, the spiritual master of the entire universe, he nevertheless took the position of a disciple in order to teach by example how a devotee should strictly follow the orders of a spiritual master in executing the duty of always chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. One who is very much attracted to the study of Vedanta philosophy must take lessons from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In this age, no one is actually competent to study Vedanta. And therefore, it is better that one chant the holy name of the Lord, which is the essence of all Vedic knowledge, as Krishna himself confirms in Bhagavad Gita 15.15. Vedaishcha sarvairda hamedya vedyo Vedanta kriteda videva chaham. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. Srila Prabhupada continues. Only fools give up the service of the spiritual master and think themselves advanced in spiritual knowledge. In order to check such fools, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself presented the perfect example of how to be a disciple. A spiritual master knows very well how to engage each disciple in a particular duty. But if a disciple, thinking himself more advanced than his spiritual master, gives up his orders and acts independently, he checks his own spiritual progress. Every disciple must consider himself completely unaware of the science of Krishna and must always be ready to carry out the orders of the spiritual master to become competent in Krishna consciousness. A disciple should always remain a fool before his spiritual master. Srila Prabhupada wrote this to a disciple in 1967 on December 14th. Rairam, he wrote, better to remain an ever fool before the spiritual master. But if a disciple is actually fool, it reflects on the spiritual master. To think of becoming a fool is the real qualification for a bona fide disciple. As soon as one thinks he has become wiser than the spiritual master, one is surely doomed. We should remain everlastingly a fool before the spiritual master, not artificially, but feelingly. And then we can make real progress. Even my spiritual master, a great scholar, remained a so-called fool before his spiritual master, who was outwardly an illiterate village fellow. So in the absolute world, the fool is also the master, and the master is also a fool in the reciprocal exchange of dealings. Lord Chaitanya also accepted himself a great fool before his spiritual master, and all of us must follow the transcendental process. Srila Prabhupada continues his purport here by explaining, sometimes pseudo-spiritualists accept a spiritual master who is not even fit to become a disciple because they want to keep him under their control. This is useless for spiritual realization. You understand what he's saying here? Sometimes cheaters will find a so-called guru and keep him as a pet, somebody who's actually a fool himself, just because they know they can control that person. Make a show. This, especially in Kali Yuga, the only leg of the bull of Dharma is honesty. And even that is wounded severely. So it's really a problem, actually. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, in this material world, there are only two kinds of persons, Vanchaka and Vanchita, the cheaters and the cheated. So this is another kind of kaitava dharma, keeping a pet guru who you know is not qualified. Cheating in God's name. The first tendency of every conditioned soul, actually, is to find a way to be religious without actually surrendering anything. And it usually takes some time to get over this habit. We all have this tendency. It's called, it's one of our 4 defects. We all have this cheating propensity. So one has to be very careful, as well as carefully guided by a proper authority. And in this world, we have, as we've said, only two kinds, people who are cheating and people who are cheated. And usually it's a little bit of each in every one of us. Srila Prabhupada gives an example of this. Previously, women would go to holy places and try to seduce the sadhus in that holy place because they're thinking that to receive a son from a sadhu would be very auspicious. However, unscrupulous men, knowing about this, they would go there in the dress of sannyasis simply in order to enjoy such women. In this way, neither side is honest. Both sides are cheating. And he says this is the nature of this material world. So we have to be very careful of that. And by God's grace, we have this process of chanting. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Even if you're scrubbing and scrubbing and scrubbing, it still seems as if the heart is black, like charcoal. But have faith. It is working. And at one point you will see there is a diamond inside. And that diamond is you. And that diamond cannot be taken away from you because it is you. And Krishna loves that diamond very much. So this is the idea. Prabhupada continues, one who imperfectly knows Krishna consciousness cannot know Vedanta philosophy. Now, just one sentence. I'll make a very quick comment. In 1980, the GBC was having problems with renegade spiritual masters in ISKCON. This is, mind you, only a few years after Srila Prabhupada left. And most of his disciples, who then became gurus themselves, they had no idea what to do. And most of them also had no real cultural training either. And so it was a problem. It was a mess. And it was threatening the integrity of our entire institution. And so they went to see one of Srila Prabhupada's remaining godbrothers, Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj. Prabhupada said if you have philosophical problems, he can help you with that. So on October 17th of 1980, they went to see him. And they were asking, how do you tell who's really, without any, there's no proof, who's actually on this elevated platform and who isn't? So Sridhar Maharaj answered, that proof is only for a particular group. Not everybody can detect the wrong thing, especially not the common people, not an ordinary man. So only a particular group will be able to see. And therefore it says in the Bhagavatam, Atma parijnana mayo vivado hi astiti nastiti bhirartha nishtha vyartho binaivo parameta punsam matta paravritta dhyam svalokat atma aparignanamaya. The soul is self-effulgent.
We lost your audio, Prabhu. Mukunda Datta Prabhu. Prabhu, no sound. I'm not able to hear you. Mukunda Datta Prabhu.
Prabhuji, maybe if you gesture with a ear, we can hear you. Prabhu may see.
I sent a message to Prabhu also in the group. Mukunda Datta Prabhu.
Prabhu, we can't hear you. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, we can't hear you. Hare Krishna, Prabhu, we can't hear you.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, it's going on. Mukunda Datta Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Prabhu. We cannot hear you. We cannot hear you, Mukunda Datta Prabhu.
Prabhuji is logged off. Looks like he'll sign in again.
Yeah, we'll reconnect.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Hare Krishna Krishna. Yeah, he sent an email that he's trying to reconnect now, so we'll wait. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Madhupad Prabhu, what do you want to do? Want to read from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, very left off?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we are in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela, chapter 7, verse number 70, verse number 80. Pagala hai ilan ami dairya nahi mane yeta chinti nivedulun guru racharane. Translation by Sri Prabhupada. I saw that I had become mad by chanting the holy name, and I immediately submitted this at the lotus feet of my spiritual master. Purport. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as an ideal teacher, shows us how a disciple should deal with his spiritual master. Whenever there is a doubt regarding any point, he should refer the matter to his spiritual master for clarification. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that while chanting and dancing, he had developed the kind of mad ecstasy that is possible only for a liberated soul. Yet, even in his liberated position, he referred everything to his spiritual master whenever there were doubts. Thus, in any condition, even when liberated, we should never think ourselves independent of the spiritual master, but must refer to him as soon as there is some doubt regarding our progressive spiritual life. 781. Kiba mantra dila gosani, kiba tar bal, japite mantra karila pagal. My dear Lord, what kind of mantra have you given me? I have become mad simply by chanting this Maha Mantra. This is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu speaking. Ishvara Puri asking. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu prays in his Sikshastaka. Yugayitam nimeshena chakshusha pravrushayitam sunyayitam jagat sarvam govinda virahename. Oh Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain. And I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. It is the aspiration of a devotee that while he chants the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, his eyes will fill with tears, his voice falter, and his heart throb. These are good signs in chanting the holy name of the Lord. In ecstasy, one should feel the entire world to be vacant without the presence of Govinda. This is a sign of separation from Govinda. In material life, we are all separated from Govinda and are absorbed in material sense gratification. Therefore, when one comes to his senses on the spiritual platform, he becomes so eager to meet Govinda that without Govinda, the entire world becomes a weekend place. If he joins, please let me know. I'll stop. Asaya nachaya mura karaya kandan. Eto suni guru hasi balila vachan. Chanting the holy name in ecstasy causes me to dance, laugh, and cry. When my spiritual master heard all this, he smiled and then began to speak. When a disciple very perfectly makes progress in spiritual life, this gladdens the spiritual master, who then also smiles in ecstasy, thinking how successful my disciple has become. He feels so glad that he smiles as he enjoys the progress of disciple, just as a smiling parent enjoys the activities of a child who is trying to stand up or crawl perfectly. 783. Krishna Nama Maha Mantrera Yei to Swabhav, Yei Jape Tar Krishna Upajaya Bhav. It is the nature of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra that anyone who chants it immediately develops this loving ecstasy for Krishna. Purport. In this verse, it is explained that one who chants the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra develops Bhava ecstasy, which is the point at which revelation begins. It is the preliminary stage in developing one's original love for God. Lord Krishna mentions this Bhava stage in the Bhagavad Gita, Chatusloki 10.8, Prabhupada is quoting. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattas sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samamrita. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who know this perfectly engage in my devotion service and worship me with all their hearts. A neophyte disciple begins by hearing and chanting, association with devotees, and preaching the regulative principles, and thus he vanquishes all of his unwanted bad habits. In this way, he develops attachment for Krishna and cannot forget Krishna even for a moment. Bhava is the almost successful stage of spiritual life. A sincere student orally receives the holy name from the spiritual master, and after being initiated, he follows the regulative principles given by the spiritual master. When the holy name is properly served in this way, automatically the spiritual master of the holy name spreads. No, spiritual nature of the holy name spreads. In other words, the devotee becomes qualified in offenselessly chanting the holy name. When one is completely fit to chant the holy name in this way, he is eligible to make disciples all over the world. And he actually becomes Jagat Guru. Then the entire world under his influence begins to chant the holy names of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Thus, all the disciples of such a spiritual master increase in attachment for Krishna. Therefore, he sometimes cries, sometimes laughs, sometimes dances, and sometimes chants. These symptoms are very prominently manifest in the body of a pure devotee. Sometimes when our students of the Krishna conscious movement chant and dance, even in India, people are astonished to see how these foreigners have learned to chant and dance in the ecstatic fashion. As explained by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, however, actually this is not due to practice, for without extra endeavor, these symptoms become manifest in anyone who sincerely chants the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Many fools, not knowing the transcendental nature of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, sometimes impede our loudly chanting this mantra. Yet, one who is actually advanced in the fulfillment of chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra induces others to chant also. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami explains, Krishna Sekti Vina Nahi Tare Pravartam. Unless one receives special power of attorney from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he cannot preach the glories of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. As devotees propagate the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, the general population of the entire world gets the opportunity to understand the glories of the holy name. While chanting and dancing or hearing the holy name of the Lord, one automatically remembers the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And because there is no difference between the holy name and Krishna, and the chanter is immediately linked with Krishna. Thus, connected, a devotee develops his original attitude of service to the Lord. In this attitude of constantly serving Krishna, which is called bhava, he always thinks of Krishna in many different ways. One who has attained this bhava stage is no longer under the clutches of the illusory energy. When other spiritual ingredients such as trembling, perspiration, and tears are added to this bhava stage, the devotee gradually attains love of Krishna. The holy name of Krishna is called the Maha Mantra. Other mantras mentioned in the Narada Pancharatra are known simply as mantras, but the chanting of the holy name of the Lord is called Mukunda Datta Prabhu, you're back here.
Sorry.
We
It
are
seems
on
to be a problem.
83, Prabhu. Yeah, I just read till 83 from 70.
83.
Yes, I
You
just read. I didn't see anything. Yeah.
All right. Well, you
You
finished 83 report also?
just 83 we finished the purport reading. So maybe you can
Okay.
explain the essence of this chapter in the interest of time. Anything we can improve upon, anything we can take home.
We've got like 5 minutes left, and then I have to do a class in Tiruchendur. Well, anyway,
You can do
Krishna
that.
Vishayaka Prema, Parama Purushartha, Jaragi Trantulya Chari Purushartha. Religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation are known as the 4 goals of life. But before love of Godhead, the 5th and highest goal, these appear as insignificant as straw in the street. So, just want to confirm that you all can hear me, right?
Yes, Prabhu, we can hear now.
Okay. All right, Srila Prabhupada writes, while chanting the holy name of the Lord, one should not desire the material advancements represented by religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and ultimately liberation from the material world. That's a very tall order, in case you haven't noticed. But he says, as stated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the highest perfection in life is to develop one's love for Krishna. Prema pum arthu mahan. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu matam idam. When we compare love of Godhead with religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation, we can understand that these achievements may be desirable objectives for bubhukshus, those who desire to enjoy this material world, and mumukshus, those who desire liberation from it, but they're very insignificant in the eyes of a pure devotee who has developed bhava, the preliminary stage of love of Godhead. In fact, Bilva Mangala Thakur says about this, that if I have pure love for you, Krishna, then Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha Devi herself are standing at my doorstep as if maidservants, ready to do anything for me. So it's not that the devotees desire love of God because then they can get all these things in one shot. No, it's actually the transcendental ecstasy that is produced from pleasing Krishna in pure love is not comparable to any of these other benefits, so-called benefits of either material enjoyment of whatever sort or even liberation from suffering. So that's not something we can really even conceive of right now. But if we follow this process up to the point of bhava bhakti, Prabhupada mentions, then we can experience that even the bliss of liberation, Rupa Goswami says, it pales when compared to the ecstasy of love of Godhead. Brahmananda bhavedesha. If you multiply it millions of times, it's still not comparable to the ecstasy of love of Godhead. So that's beyond us right now, but at least we can place our faith in that principle. Srila Prabhupada continues now. He says, dharma, religiosity, artha, economic development, kama, sense gratification, and moksha, liberation, are the 4 principles of religion that pertain to the material world. Therefore, in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is declared, dharma projita kaita votra paramo nirmatsaranam satam ityadi. For cheating religious systems in terms of these 4 material principles are completely discarded from Srimad Bhagavatam, for Srimad Bhagavatam teaches only how to develop one's dormant love of God. The Bhagavad Gita is the preliminary study of Srimad Bhagavatam, and therefore it ends with the words sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. To adopt this means we should reject all ideas of religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation, and fully engage in the service of the Lord, which is transcendental to these four principles. Now, this is a matter of principle. It's not necessarily a matter of practice in the sense that we should not avoid being religious, and we should not throw money away as if it were useless. Neither should we neglect sense gratification when it is necessary. For example, you have to sleep, otherwise you go crazy, and etc. And even liberation, if it is favorable for our service, then liberation is also not something that requires rejection. This we should be sensitive to. Prabhupada is making this emphatic statement just to drill into our dull heads what is the ultimate goal that we're aspiring after, and that is prema. Prema pumarto mahan. Along the way to developing prema, we can use these things, and in fact we should use these things to the extent that they can be used. Otherwise, our so-called renunciation is called falgu vairagya, flimsy or immature. All right, let me finish this purport, and then I'm very sorry that I will have to go because I have a class at 6:30, I mentioned already. So, to adopt, yes. Love of God, it is the original function of the spirit soul, and it is as eternal as the soul and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This eternity is called Sanatana. When a devotee revives his loving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it should be understood that he has been successful in achieving the desired goal of his life. At that time, everything is automatically done by the mercy of the Holy Name. Everything is done by the mercy of the Holy Name. Bookmark that. And the devotee automatically advances in spiritual progress. I'm very sorry. We wasted a lot of time tonight just because of technical difficulties. As I said, it seems to me that the problem was on Zoom's end, at least regarding my computer. And I can only apologize for that. So we don't really have time for questions even because I've got to go and give another class right now. So maybe we can make it up next time. If you all give your blessings, then mujhe jana padega. Is that okay?
Okay. Hare Krishna, Uji. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
All glory to Chataprabhuvyascha Kapasanjayascha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo. Thank you, Mukasarana Prabhu.
So,
Thank you very much. So, the lecture which Mukundatta Prabhu referred to Tamal Krishna Maharaj's lecture, it's there in the chat. 1996. I thought it was 76 and I was searching for it, but then I found it in the chat. Okay. 1996. Good, wonderful.
yeah, it is there in ISKCON Desert also, same lecture.
Yeah, good.
Reunion memory, it seems. Series of lectures in France.
Good. So thank you very much. We had a wonderful New York Rath Yatra yesterday. And, thank you very much for participating so enthusiastically for a while, completely forgetting the pandemic. When we take shelter of the Supreme Lord, all pandemic automatically goes away. Let's note, extension of the Rath Yatra today. We have special Jagannath Puri style